welcome to episode 16 of Debra Quilts Lots and Knits Bits. I'm Debra McCracken and I quilt a lot and I knit a little bit. I am coming to you on Thursday, May the 7th, 2020. As you can see, we're having a beautiful sunny morning here in Penticton, British Columbia. I record every once in a while just to have a visit and just show you what I've been working on. So this past week on Tuesday, May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, was Leanne's birthday. Happy birthday, Leanne. She's been the longest friend I have had. She was born 3 months before me, and they lived across the street when we were little. And we've kept in touch all these years, so I hope that you had a happy birthday. And I just been here in my little room in the basement and working on stuff. Working on customer quilts. I have 3 customer quilts left to in the closet, and I have a couple of bags of quilts from Poppins to do. So I'm about 3 weeks out from getting quilts done. I've got a couple coming this week too. So if you have a quilt and you'd like to get it done, now's the time. Yay! I could probably just quilt some of my own quilts. That would be funny. Anyway, so I have finished my Pure Comfort cardigan. I've been working on this since June of last year, and it now has pockets. So it's got pockets. They're actually in there. I finished this on Monday. I was working, I was weaving in the ends and sewing the pockets in on Monday, and so it's ready to be blocked, but I haven't taken it off. Really, I've been wearing it every day, and it's very comfortable and very squishy. So I will have to take it off soon and get it blocked, because I think it will be just even that much better after it's blocked. But this is the Sweet Merino DK from Color Adventure in the Birch colorway. And it knit up so nicely, and it's just awesome. It was meant for my daughter to start with, but after getting quite a ways through it, I thought, no way, I'm keeping this one. It's going to be so comfortable. So, that being said, I was on Instagram with my daughter a couple weeks ago, and I met the young lady from Red Fox Fibers at Yarn Okanagan last year, where I bought this yarn from Color Adventure, and she didn't have the tweed I'd heard about with her, or she didn't have enough of the one color or whatever, and truthfully I was only going to buy for the project I was working on. So being so close to having finished this, I was talking to Sarah, and we looked at her website and decided that we would get some of her tweed, the Blackstone tweed, and it's called Driftwood. Very similar colorway, which is just fine. So while I was putting the last few stitches in this on Monday, I heard the mailbox and my yarn arrived. And so I got it wound up on Tuesday, and I've gotten started knitting. So that's what it looks like once knit up. This is ribbing, 1x1 ribbing. And I have been continental ribbing, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. I've gotten the rhythm of that down now. And because I have 14 inches of ribbing to do, because I'm working on, it's called the Wrap Around Sweater Scarf, Wrap Me Up Sweater Scarf by Knititude. She's a designer from Calgary, and maybe I'll this side I can show you and you can see. Nope. Okay. So it's actually, you wear it as a scarf or you can wrap it around. Maybe you can see that picture. Oh, you'd think I hadn't done this already 3 or 4 times. There you go. So you wrap it around and then you've got the sleeves to stick your arms through. And you can wear it many different ways. So it's when I saw the design, I thought, well, that's very Sarah. So I ordered it, got the pattern, yarn showed up, perfect timing, and I'm on the go. So I don't think I'll have it done by the next time I record, but maybe, who knows? The only other thing I've got on needles right now is a pair of socks. It's the same pair of socks I've been working on, and I keep them for when we go out and do stuff. Go sit and have coffee somewhere, or I want to go to a meeting, and I haven't been out since middle of March, so they're still in the zipper pouch. And everything's like the heel's turned and the foot's done, and I just need to put a little bit of a cuff because they're going to be little shorty socks, and so I may get those finished for the next time, but who knows, something could come up. Anyway, on the quilting side of things, I have been working on this. The Colorful Brilliant Beauties of Joy. And the last time I recorded, I was working on these ribbons around the border and the checkerboard. Well, about a week and a half ago, I finished all of the paper piecing. So if you don't know what that is, you sew through paper to get everything to match up perfectly, and then you pull the paper out after. It makes quite a mess. So I'm going to take that out in the backyard, sit in the sun, and do that one day. Anyway, it does lend itself to very precise piecing. And so far, this is what I've got put together. I've got all the components done. I need to cut my background pieces and my border pieces for the rest of it. It's kind of got, you know, step by step as you go, and so anyway, I thought I was going to do it my way, and this was supposed to be appliqued on, and I thought, no, I can piece lacquer that on. So yes, I piece lacquered that on. I made a template out of freezer paper, starched the edges down, glued it down, and I sewed it. So that is an actual seam like you would expect, instead of being top stitched appliqued. So then I came to do this ring. Well, got out my freezer paper, I made a template, I starched the edges, I glued it down. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. I did a couple times. I used big stitches so that I could take it out if I needed to, and I had to take it out. So then I thought, okay, you know what? Time to follow the directions. So I got some more freezer paper, made a new template, I got some more fabric, cut a new piece, and lo and behold, it worked the first time, doing it Jacqueline de Jong's way. So when all else fails, read the directions. So I got a whole booklet full of directions to put the rest of the pieces together, and then hopefully I'll be done soon. So this is the Moda Grunge fabric. You can see me through there. There you go. And this is also the Moda Grunge fabric, but this is the back. You pay for both sides of a piece of fabric. You can use both sides. And the pattern called for this to be more solid and this to have a little bit of a print on it. So, hey, you know what? It killed two birds with one stone. And the Jacqueline uses a tiny black and white stripe for her little borders, and I have this Laurel Birch stripe with a little bit of metallic on it, which went with a little bit of metallic on my fabrics. So I used that, and I think it's going to look just fine. It'll be a little different than the pattern, but I'm good with that. I also, instead of using solids, I used the Ombre fabrics from V & Company. I had a half-yard bundle of them. I think Poppins still has some. Anyway, there were 20 fabrics in there, and this needed 24. So I took a couple out, and then I substituted in these confetti ones. And there's another couple Ombres that were in the store that I added in. So these spikes were dark and the background was light, and these spikes were light and the background was dark, and I managed to kind of alternate those on the rest of the rings and the ribbon that goes around the outside. So I'm pretty excited to get that put together. I think it's going to be pretty nice. It'll probably be forever. Actually, we have a quilt show coming up next April. So I can say with confidence that it'll be finished and quilted for that. So I think I might put it aside for a little bit because, as I said last time, I've got a little grandbaby coming in August. And I found this. This is called La Fin du Monde quilt, and it's by Libs Elliott. She is a Canadian modern quilt designer. I don't know, there was the Absolute Vodka used a commemorative bottle for Canada's 150th a few years ago, and the design, the graphic on that bottle was actually a Libs Elliott design. So that's where I first heard of her. She does have some beautiful modern fabrics out. And this is one of her patterns from her website. So I'm going to do my heart. I'm going to do all those in greens. And the background, she does have an option for a pieced background or a solid background. So I'm going to do my background as a solid background, and then I will quilt in the piecing because that's the part I like to do. I'd rather quilt it than piece it. So that'll be fun. And yeah, the nursery's all being done in kind of sagey greens and grays. So now that I have all these pieces put together, look at all the greens I got to work with. So I got lots of scraps of greens that I can do that with. And that pattern I got a download online, and there's 3 different sizes. And I'm doing the baby size, which will come out to be 40 by 48. And it's got the largest size is 80 by 96. And very well written pattern. It had like a cutting list of the pieces, of the fabrics, and whether they're lights or darks. And that's kind of the way I like to do things. I usually take a pattern and make a cutting list first and try to make it so it's efficient and work through it, you know, so I can work through it as quickly as possible. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting started on that. I should kind of maybe put this one away and work on that one, and we'll see how that goes. The other things that we've been sewing on lately are our gowns for doctors. Somehow my name got passed along, and we were doing some gowns for the South Okanagan physicians. Anyway, it's the doctors that are doing the testing clinics, and very wonderful young lady has been dropping off Precut Pieces, and there's been a group of about 8 of us that have been putting them together, and to date we're up to 38 gowns, and so that's pretty awesome. So thank you to Jane, Jackie, Noni, Diana, Katie, and Sherry for helping out. That is pretty awesome. And yeah, it's something different to do, and it makes you feel like you're doing something. You know, if all you can do is just stay home to help out, that's pretty easy. So, you know, I stay home and I get a little antsy, so now that's something to do. That helped. So there you go. So that's really, week before last, Brandy, the Quilter on Fire, organized a Zoom call for our Modern Guild ladies, and we all made these little thread catcher pouches. So you can make them any size you want, and she just gave us instructions for cutting out this size. I didn't quilt mine. I just used a piece of scrap batting and some scraps from my scrap bins that are all organized. Thank you, Frank. And came up with this. So it's kind of fun. We spent a couple hours. We were all sewing at the same time. And we got a little visit in and checked in and to see who's doing what and how everybody's doing. And so that was pretty cool. It's just a little bit of social time. So now they announced yesterday that we can expand our little social bubble a little bit. So, you know, that being said, I'm probably not going to be running out hugging a bunch of people. It is specific people that you expand your bubble with, but we'll see how that goes. So, anyway. Still pretty comfortable at home. I got my warm sweater. I've got lots to eat, obviously. My rings are so tight that my fingers in the morning feel like the circulation's being cut off. So now that they've kind of expanded that little bit of a bubble, I think that's my sign to go upstairs and put on that yoga video and actually follow along and do it. Or go outside, go for a walk. It's coming. It's coming. So you may have noticed this quilt behind me. This is my Gypsy wife quilt. Usually when you see them, they're hung with the stripes going up and down. But I wanted to be able to show you as much of it as I could. So it's hanging horizontally, and yeah. So this, for me, is a memory quilt, because I did this in a year when I had 3 weddings that I made quilts for, grandbabies, well, my husband's grandbabies, and just different things. So I spent a few days, probably about 8 or 10 hours in total. I dumped out my scrap basket, and I opened up the page in the book, and it said you need 4 squares this size, 3 triangles this size, and I just picked a piece of fabric out of the bucket, or out of the pile now, that I could cut those many pieces out of, and that size. So I didn't pay attention to what went with what or anything, because, you know, my scrap basket probably has a lot of things that go together because they're my scraps, right? And as you can see, we didn't do too bad. So lots of little pieces that I just used up, and yeah, so I opened page 1, cut all those pieces, put them in a Ziploc bag with a little piece of paper in there that said this is block 1, and there ended up to be, I think, 52 blocks. So then I took those off. I went to retreat. That year I went to Grand Forks a couple days ahead of time. Shirley had just gotten her quilting machine and asked if I would come and show her a few things. Well, I got there and she showed me what she was doing, and she knew what she was doing. I mean, she had it all down pat already. So I got a nice visit in with her for a couple of days, and I was fortunate to be able to stay at Ray's house, and she had work to do, so I was left alone in her sewing room with my sewing machine and my pieces cut out. So that was pretty awesome. And then we went to retreat, and so, you know, by the time I got home from retreat, I had up to section 7 out of 10 put together, and then I spent a few more evenings that week at home, because I knew that if I didn't do it then, I wouldn't get it done. Getting the rest of it put together. So when I went to quilt it, I thought, you know, this is a lot of memories for me. So when I, you know, use these pieces, this one's got Tremblay written in it. That's from Jana's wedding quilt, and this one's got Brazeau written in it. That's from Jen's wedding quilt. There's also a Greenwood piece. Now it's Melody's wedding quilt. And then the twins' names are in there, and my niece requested a quilt out of this kinds of colors, and her name's in there. Phyllis gave me some pre-made half square triangles to add to my Gypsy wife, because she sat down with me while we were at retreat and copied my notes that I got off the Facebook page, which I'll talk about in a second. So Phyllis's name is on there. Bernadette had this fabric that I just loved on the back of one of her quilts that I did for her like 10 years ago. And she's like, oh, well, why don't you just keep this, the backing scraps? And I'm like, are you kidding? Because there's quite a bit. And so I've been, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then there's like the pieces of the first fabric line I brought into the shop and all kinds of things. So I did quilt in here, Gypsy Wife, Memories of 2017. And then in one other block, it does say Heart and Sew Retreat, and it was just a fun way to make it into a memory quilt, was just to quilt those things in. And I will give you a little bit of a close-up here. So, as you can see, I just used one thread on the whole thing. The Glide Sand, of course, it's just my favorite go-to. And I'm going to get a better grip on that. And I'm sorry if you're seeing my messy sewing room in the background. And then that's what the back looks like. I use the Glide Sand on the back. And every stripe of fabric got kind of the same treatment in each stripe as it went along. So if I used this fabric, I put circles in it, and this one got little swirly loops, and this one kind of got flames. I can't see when I'm looking at, there we go. This one kind of got flames. So it was lots of fun, lots of work to quilt it, but really it wasn't. I just kind of did it as I went. I made it up as I went along. And it's just completely out of the scrap bin. We did have, for a while at Poppins, we had the Gypsy Wife support group. And what that was people had bought their patterns and brought them in, and I just gave my little tips and tricks on how to make things a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient, like my cutting and sticking it in a bag and keeping to cut it. Keep getting it all cut out first made it faster, but I mean, that's not the point of making a quilt. You don't want to just make it fast. I like to make it fast. I like to be efficient, but nobody else has to do that. And I do things a little differently in order to compensate for my haste. So on Facebook there is a Gypsy Wife group, and people post pictures of their blocks, pictures of their quilts, ask questions, and there's a lady from Australia called the Gnome Angel, Gnome. You can look up her website. She did a Gypsy Wife sew-along, and she also posted on that Facebook group a number of spreadsheets to just aid in the efficiency of this quilt. And one of those things was the sizes of the blocks. So you need like 8 blocks that are 9.5 inches unfinished, and so many that are 10.5, and it goes on and on like that. So when we were had our little support group, it was just like Saturday morning, a couple hours, people piped up and said, well, you know, I have other blocks. Can I use those? Of course you can use those. So they ended up with some Gypsy Orphan quilts, and wow, I mean, they still look great. I mean, the whole setting of putting them in these, with these strips in between and puzzling the pieces together, very effective and really nice. And one of the things that the Gnome Angel also did was another spreadsheet, I believe it was hers, of getting the like the strips here to match up with the strips here in the same space. And you know, I'm just pointing that one out because it is actually the same as this one, but they don't match up. But if you wanted to make them match up, you can number them and put them in the same position here as they are there, and it's a very cool effect. And there's lots of different color schemes and types of fabrics that have been used. And it's, if you go on to Instagram or Facebook and just put in the hashtag Gypsy Wife, you will get so many beautiful things to look at. So it's a Jen Kingwell pattern. The pattern is an actual book, and Poppins did have some, and if they don't have any, they can order it in for you. It isn't an inexpensive item, but I mean, it's you learn a lot from it, and you get to do lots of different things. But I mean, these patterns aren't inexpensive either. So anyway, that's what I have. And actually this quilt, we've had it on the bed for the winter, and my husband said, oh, you know, it's warm enough now, we can take it off. So that's why, I said I can hang that on the wall and film tomorrow. Not because I have a lack of quilts to put on the wall behind me, but because it's not put away yet. So there you go. Little insight into Debra's mind. So I'm gonna go now. I have hockey quilts to put on today. Well, I'll get one on today. And happy making, happy sewing, happy quilting, happy knitting, happy. Enjoy the sunshine, and enjoy this downtime, and things will be better soon. They're not all that bad right now, but it will be better soon. So take it easy, and we'll talk to you next time when I get something else done.